Welcome back to Cash and Sass, the podcast where we dish the shame, talk real numbers, and build bold, bankable wealth without sacrificing who we are. I'm your host, Lisa Marie, fractional CFO, wealth mentor, and the sassy wealth queen behind Transcendent Wealth Company. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever looked around online and thought, am I the only one who doesn't have this all figured out? Hello, I've asked that, I think, several times. Because the truth is, a lot of what you see online is highlight reel, not a balance sheet. My guest today is Rachel Allen. She's the owner of Bolt from the Blue Copywriting. And tongue twisted in this. And she's seen the money mess behind the scenes of wildly successful businesses. We're talking catastrophic money mistakes, fake wealth narratives, pricing fear, and what it actually takes to move from chaos to confidence with money. No filters, no fluff, just the truth. You know that's how I am. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I'm going to dive right into it. You've worked in the back end of a lot of successful businesses. What do people not see in that back end?
Oh, I'm so glad that someone has finally asked me this because everything looks so shiny on the outside. But what people don't see in the back end is the constant fear of the next launch failing. They don't see the debt people put themselves into to present this successful wealth narrative. And this is the sneakiest one. They don't see that oftentimes there's another source of money that is bankrolling this supposedly successful business, which might not actually be making all that much money itself.
Yeah. And what are some of the myths about money in online business, though, that are most damaging? Because I think most people don't really realize that there are some myths about it when it comes to online business. Because again, we only see what we see online, like on Facebook or on social media.
So I think that there's a couple. I think that one of the most common ones is that everybody actually has it all together except for you. And if you just followed the system, then you'd be able to figure it out too. I think the other really common myth is that if you're not successful, then it's a personal failing because you have the system. It's there. It's ready. Everybody else seems to be able to make money with it, but you're not for some reason. And so I think people feel a lot of shame about that. And they also fail to acknowledge a lot of bad money behavior that happens on the back end of online businesses where people perhaps don't pay their contractors or they do shady things with contracts. And so I think that there's this myth of simplicity that's just not true. And people take it to heart and they feel like, well, there must be something wrong with me, when really it's like, no, there's so much going on behind the scenes that people just aren't talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that sometimes we forget that social media is a highlight reel, right? And we let what we see on social media damage us as far as, oh, they've got it all together. They've got it figured out. They're able to do this. But what we don't see is they may have been in business 5-10 years, or they've got funding from other places. And then we decide we're going to do the same thing as them, but we don't realize we don't have the same funding. So we basically try to match them, right? And then we end up in worse debt or catastrophic. And we can't pull ourselves out. And then we're trying to figure out what's wrong with us. Why were they able to do it, but we weren't? You've been really open about some in the questionnaire I was asking about some of the catastrophic money decisions early on. Can you maybe share just a little bit and then explain what did those teach you?
So the biggest mistake I made, particularly early on, was I just didn't pay my taxes. I was living abroad. I didn't pay taxes in the US or in the UK where I was living at the time. And I thought, well, I'll figure it out later, or, oh, this seems really stressful, or, I'm bad with numbers. I said that a lot. I'm bad with numbers. I can't figure it out. But of course you have to. And so when I put it off for about 3 years and the letters were getting really scary, I finally had to figure it out. And what it really came down to was just I was so scared of looking stupid in front of an accountant that I wouldn't get in touch with one when I could have fixed this really easily. So I think that taught me a lesson in humility. But also in that people are actually out there to help you, nobody who works in accounting or finance is going to look at your business and be like, wow, that's embarrassing. They're going to be like, okay, you need some help. This is not your area of expertise. So that was a huge one. I mean, I think pay your taxes is the biggest lesson we all have to learn. And another one kind of ties into strategic stuff, which is I was actually chasing a goal I didn't really care about for a long time. And I sunk so much money into trying to make this goal work because I thought that was what would make me successful. And when I finally got there, I didn't really like it. It was more expensive than I wanted. And I had to really get honest with myself about my sunk costs and just say, okay, well, I'm just going to have to write that off. And I like made a mantra to myself of, you know what, people spend more money on dumber things. And I just had to learn to forgive myself and make better decisions next time.
So, see, I think there's two things there. One, I can't stress enough how often I say that knowing your numbers is important, knowing where they're going, having a system in place so that not only are you paying yourself, but you're also putting money aside for those taxes. And how often I say that, in the old days, yes, there's probably the bro people who have judged, but majority of us out there, whether it's me or a bookkeeper or an accountant, majority of us are not going to judge. The key is finding someone who's going to help you put a system in place, who's going to also help you see what could work better. I have clients who come to me all the time, finally have their accounting books together, or they think they have them together, or they got them together, but they're like, there's got to be a better way to do this so that I can see what's going on with my money and I can pay myself and I can make sure I still have the money for taxes, because I really don't want to touch anything to pay me, because I don't want to get back into that bind again of where I was before. And what happens with that is we come and we put a plan together that's for their lifestyle, their values, their goals. And what happens is they end up seeing that it doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be difficult, as long as they're aware and they've got someone that they can communicate with and can create a plan that's based on their values and their goals. Is so totally possible. The key is, one, admitting it; two, recognizing that it's okay, right? That you want a system and you want to be able to multiply that money, and not looking at it causes so much more damage. And y'all, if y'all take nothing from this, please understand what it will cost you to have a fractional CFO like me, or a bookkeeper or an accountant. And I have bookkeepers on my team, or an accountant will save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run compared to what you will pay them in an investment. I cannot stress that enough. I hear so often, oh, that's a little expensive, I'll just wait. Oh, honest to goodness, the amount of money we're going to save you, no, we're
No, I
not.
mean, truly, while I haven't worked with you, I have never regretted being with any financial professional I've hired, because it absolutely has saved me money in the long term and has helped me earn so much more money because I'm not draining things away into little
Right.
things that I didn't realize.
Right. And not only that, but you have someone who's looking after you, right? And helping manage your money. All the big corporations, all these big wigs, they have a chief financial officer, which is what a CFO is, okay? Fractional CFO means we're just not full time for you. That is the only thing that means. But we still do the exact same thing that a chief financial officer does for those big companies. They don't operate without having those. I can guarantee it they don't, because that's not their zone of genius. Their zone of genius is what they do, right? So they're going to have a team to do those things, right? A fractional CFO, financial advisor, a tax accountant, okay? They're going to have those people, and they may even have a COO or a marketing officer. They're going to have those C-suite of people, because that's not their zone of genius, and that's how they're going to get to operate. How do y'all think y'all see them everywhere? I promise it's not 100% them doing it, because then they would never sleep, and I can guarantee you they sleep, right? And I just think it's important to realize that you don't have to avoid it, and avoiding it is actually going to cost you so much more money in the long run. So I'm going to ask this because that's where we're going, because a lot of times it's shame. I know for me, it was shame. When I first started looking at my numbers, I was ashamed that I didn't know what was what. Even though I was great with numbers, I was shameful. I didn't want to go to someone. I was ashamed of going to a tax advisor, even though I had the background. She was the best thing I ever did. And yes, I have the background, but I don't prepare my own taxes. I have a tax advisor. She's actually partnered with me. And now we help my clients that come to me. If they don't have someone, they immediately are able to have her as a tax advisor and her do their taxes. So it's a win-win. But how does shame keep entrepreneurs stuck financially so much longer than they need to be. Because I think that that's a big
Oh gosh.
thing.
I mean, so I think on the personal level, it's just like when you're worried about going to the doctor or the dentist about something and you're like, oh, but like the dentist is going to know I haven't been flossing. So you put it off and then it gets worse and worse and worse, you know? And so it,
I tell my dentist when I walk in, I don't floss.
and it's like, it's their job and that they're not actually going to be mad about it or whatever, but you have this thing. And so I think people individually paralyze themselves. And I think we see this play out on a macro scale in the industry, though, because one thing I've been super fired up about in the past year is the wage gap in entrepreneurship. I actually just ran a panel discussion on this where we found that women, on average, price 30% lower than men for the same work. And so I think I think that ties back to shame of like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. Who am I to charge this much? All the things that we tell ourselves over and over again. I was just absolutely boggled by those numbers.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, though, it comes down to we have this heart and we care. And when someone goes, well, that just seems expensive. And then we're like, well, let's do this for you. Whereas if it was a man, okay, we're just going to be there, or a big company, they're going to say, okay, they're not going to tell them if they were serious, they would find a way. I cannot stand whoever does that. Listen, that is not something we do. However, they're going to say, well, if you're not here yet, here's a couple of other alternatives, and here's the pricing points. And when you're ready, you can come and do this. This is the pricing point. And when you're ready, and you leave it. When they're ready, they'll come back. And I know that's hard because I have found that very difficult to do. And undermining our value and the service that we provide, knowing the tens of thousands of dollars, for example, that I know I can save my clients, not just while they're with me, but years to come after they've maybe outgrown me or moved on. The tens and thousands of dollars that I can save them is worth the investment they're going to give me. And I tell people all the time, I am not the cheapest. However, I am not the most expensive. And I know I'm not the most expensive because I've seen some of the investments that other fractional CFOs charge. And there may be a bigger firm and they charge more. They charge a higher premium. And that's okay. Where I'm at is the premium that I want for my investment, and I do a high-end one-on-one service. Okay. So you've got to, I don't want to say put the shame away, but realize that the shame is keeping you stuck. We need to turn that shame around and say, okay, let's ask for help. And it's okay that I charge what I charge for my services. And it's okay if it's not a good fit for you right now, and keep moving on.
Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice anybody ever gave me in business was keep your hands out of other people's wallets, which is you don't know what expensive really means for them. You don't know what cheap means for them. And so if you try to preemptively be like, well, if I can guess, then, you're just making problems for everybody. So instead, I think you should set your prices. They are what they are. If you're comfortable with them, you charge them. And I promise you, someone will come and pay it.
Yeah, because it's like, as long as you're sticking to that ideal client. So let me ask you this. You were told something that a lot of my clients come to me telling me they were told, which they have this fear because they were told that then they're going to be told that by whoever is helping them as a fractional CFO or whatever. You were told you were bad with money. Okay. How did that belief, and the reason I'm asking this is because I want people to realize that there's a way to get to the other side. So how did that belief shape you or shape your early decisions when you were starting your business or before you started? How did that shape those early decisions?
So for me, that was actually a childhood thing. And I think it was probably just some family narrative that nobody's ever really looked at. But it was like, women are bad with money, so you're going to be bad with money. And I grew up with this ridiculous fear that if I ever got any kind of amount of money, I would just automatically waste it and I wouldn't even think about it. And I'm not especially impulsive in my normal life, but I was like, oh, I can't charge a lot because if I earn a lot, this is the dumb thing that was in my head. I was like, I'm going to accidentally buy a boat. I don't even want a boat.
Well, and see, the thing is, though, is not a dumb thing. It's a subconscious belief, and what happened is you actually prevented yourself from making that extra
Right.
amount of money, because if you do, you're gonna be bad with
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And it took me so much work with, therapy and money mindset and working with financial professionals to be like, oh, wait, you know what? Unless I swipe the card, I'm not going to get a boat and that's okay. I won't somehow become mind controlled and accidentally waste all my money on things.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you is what helped you rebuild, and honestly, I don't even say rebuild. I wanna say what helped you because you have a similar past
Yeah.
of like me, right? I grew up being told that I didn't come from money, and if I since I didn't come from money, if I didn't marry into money, I was never gonna
Mhm.
have any money. And that's just the way it's gonna be. You're gonna work, you're not ever gonna have enough money to do more than get by. And that was a narrative that I believed and I lived into of, okay, I can never have more than that because that's what I'm only
Right.
supposed to have because I wasn't, right? And so I had to build trust
Mhm.
with myself financially and build trust with me and
Yeah.
money, because money is a tool again, and I had to build that trust. What are some of the things that helped you build that trust? Because again, what helped me may be different than what helped you. We may have similars. And the one thing that I love about my podcast and my listeners is that I want that and I've told them countless times and I'll say it, I don't know, a million times over. What works for one may not work. That's the reason why I ask these questions. And I want them to see that there are different ways and they can come to
Yeah.
the other side. So, can you give us a couple of things that
Yeah,
helped
sure.
you?
So, one of mine was actually working with accountants and bookkeepers and a financial behaviorist who didn't they never said anything mean about any decision I had made. If it was like a decision where they're like, "Oh, actually, you know what? That was probably not your best decision." They were honest with me about that, but it was never this finger pointing like, "Gosh, look at you." They're very non-judgmental, very kind. So having that support team was really helpful for me. Doing money mindset work. So I took a couple of courses from like money mindset coaches to kind of like get into the underlying conscious beliefs that I had. And once I was able to look at them, I was able to release them. And then, as you said, building trust with money was a big thing for me. So after I finally got my tax situation sorted out, I actually started hand categorizing my expenses every week. And I don't have to, I have a bookkeeper, but just being able to see, like, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. And to actually know what everything is and to see what I did and understand that it wasn't some sort of like dumb, irrational decision. Like I did that for a reason, helped me build trust in my ability to handle money.
I love that. I love that. One of the first things I did is I practiced gratitude for what I had. And, whether it was me spending money on gas or groceries, I would
Yeah.
say thank you. And people are like, wait a minute, where are you saying thank you? I was saying thank you that I had the money in my bank account and had the money to pay for groceries. And I was saying thank you when money, revenue came in. And actually did I still do, y'all. I still do a dance. I do a dance. And when revenue is coming into my bank account, I'm not being egotistical. That's
Love
not what this is. It's a celebration, because when you understand that money flows in and out and that's what it's supposed to do, and you're grateful for it coming in and having it when it needs to leave, or investing, paying for gas, groceries, etc., then you're understanding that tool. And I start building, I call it a really cool dance partner relationship with money, because that's what it is. It's a tool. And I think sometimes we have to remember that when we have that trust. And then I tell my clients, just open your bank account, look at it every morning, not judgmentally, see what the balance is. Y'all, we got all our phones. Go to the app on the phone. Every bank has got an app, I promise. Okay. Go look at the balance and then just click and say, okay, what are the transactions that came out? Are these the transactions that should have come out? What did I spend that isn't every month expenses? Where did it go? And then just look at it, okay? Whether it's write it down like Rachel's talking about or just look at it.
it.
I glance. I look at it, but I do this every single day. And then every week, I'm looking at it as a whole, right? To see if I'm on track. Is anything off? Did something increase? I make notes, and at the end of the month, I adjust if I need to for that following month. I'm telling y'all, when I It used to be when I looked at it, it caused me stress. Now, when I don't look at it, it
Yes.
causes me stress. If I've missed 2 or 3 days from looking at it because life has happened, I've been overwhelmed, I am stressed to the hilt when I go to look at it. But if I look at it every single day and do my weekly thing, I'm not stressed. It's mind-boggling, but it's because your brain is like, hey, this actually helps your nervous system knowing what's going on in the long run versus avoiding it. You have like quintupled your prices during a dry
Yeah.
spell, which, hello, I am interested to hear because I've been in a dry spell. I will be honest, as a fractional CFO, 2025 was a huge dry spell. Okay. Walk us through that decision because I'm gonna be honest, I haven't quintupled my prices during a dry spell. But walk us through that decision on why you did
So
that.
my last dry spell was 2023, and this is when I did this. But but at that point, I had been in business for 15 years or so. I hadn't really raised my prices in about 7 years. And the reason I hadn't done that was because I was afraid if I raised my prices, I'd lose my clients. And I was like, well, I'm already losing my clients. I might as well try the opposite way because I knew that the options were try and be cheaper, which I don't want to do, or raise my prices. So I was like, okay, it's not like people are going to not hire me even more. I was just absolutely shocked that as soon as I raised my prices like that, I had a couple big clients come in who hired me for year-long contracts, and it created a lot of financial stability that I had been hoping for with this little piecemeal, like, oh, but if I just charge you this much, maybe it'll be okay type of pricing.
Right. And basically what you were saying is, okay, I haven't done it. This isn't working. I know the worth. So I'm going to change it and then I'm going to put it out there and the right people will come and you put it out there and the right people came. And it's having that trust, right? And believing in that worth and saying, okay, well, and it's kind of what I talk about. Not talking about money hasn't worked. It hasn't got us anywhere. Hello, society. It hasn't. So let's flip it and let's talk about it and see if that works because obviously the other part is not working. So I love that. So it's like, because basically, y'all, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so what she did was, okay, well, I've been doing this over and over again. This isn't working. So let's just flip it. Let's do the complete opposite. And sometimes that's what is needed, which is, I mean, the total reason why I created this podcast to begin with. And so I love that. The last thing, you've said that money amplifies who you already are. And I cannot agree more. I want someone else to explain that. So it's not just me. So I want you to explain what do you mean by that?
So my whole like money mindset stuff when I was growing up was, well, rich people are greedy. Rich people are bad. If you get a lot of money, then you're going to be a bad person. You're going to become uncaring, whatever. But what I found after being around some extremely wealthy people and after generating wealth for myself, I was like, oh, you know what? It just turns up the volume on whatever you already had going on for good and bad, right? So I think that that's the challenge of the relationship with money is it challenges you to develop yourself and to become better and more effective and to grow as a person. But it's not like you're going to get a bunch of money and suddenly become crazy greedy if you weren't already, or you're not going to become cruel if you weren't already. It's just an amplifier.
It does. It just amplifies. I can't exactly. If you're already a good person and you want to make an impact and you want to give to people, all that's going to do is amplify that and you're going to be able to do it even more. And I used to think the same thing. I used to think that if I got rich, I was going to be some evil person. I was going, if I became wealthy, I was going to be some evil person. I was going to be just like, whatever. And I don't know. I had it in my head and I was like, okay, but I'm not that way. And I didn't want to become that way, right? And then like you, I was around all these other wealthy people and they're doing so much good and they're living their life. And I'm like, okay, well, I want that. And like, well, if they can do that and it's just, and someone even said, she goes, well, it's just going to amplify who you already are. And I'm like, huh, okay. I don't know if anyone can handle me being amplified even more sassy, but
right. Why don't we find out?
Okay. Right. I was like, let's just find out. This has been an awesome, awesome conversation. And to me, it's been a breath of fresh air because someone else is getting it and has walked us through the stories that they've been through. And especially for women who feel like they're behind, right? When the truth is, they've just been sold this fantasy. So, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your
You can
work?
find me at boltfromthebluecopywriting.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can just email me at rachel@boltfromthebluecopywriting.com and I'll respond to you.
Awesome. Awesome. And y'all, how about check her out? Because obviously she knows her stuff when it comes to the marketing and the media and all that stuff. And listen, I'm going to be checking her out myself. And for all my listeners, so those listening, if this episode cracked anything, something open around your money story, your pricing, or what's really happening behind the scenes of your business, then it's time to get support. Book a wealth alignment call with me so that we can go and look at your real numbers, look and see what's going on, identify the profit leaks, build financial clarity rooted in truth, not in comparison. We start where you're at, okay? The link for all of this and to connect with Rachel is going to be in the show notes. And as I always say, until next time, remember, confidence and cash are the ultimate power duo. Go check in with your money. And as always, have a fantastic and wealthy day. Till next time.